I'm Ari here with Rachel, and we're your hosts for the Merry Writer podcast. This week we're on episode 301, and since we're on our last episode of 2025, we thought we'd do another rapid fire question episode. Before we start, if you enjoy the show, consider checking out our copy page. You can follow the page for free, as we have plenty of goodies for all. If you're feeling generous, one-off donation will get you access to even more treats, or you can even become a Merry Writer for just $2 a month. For this, you get access to all the items in our shop, including exclusive goodies, as well as access to monthly bonuses, all while helping to support our podcast. If that's not your style, but you still enjoy the podcast, then please subscribe wherever you're listening if you haven't already, and consider dropping us a like and a comment. We do read them, you know. Okay, now, not only are we doing rapid fire, and by the way, I love that we say rapid fire, we're never that rapid. We are re-answering questions from early episodes. That's right, questions we answered back in 2020. Still can't believe it's been 5 years. Honestly, I have no idea how we answered these questions the first time. So this is going to be fun. And, you know, hopefully they will be slightly different because we have matured and changed and grown in those 5 years. We'll see.
I do want to say that when I wrote down my answers to, try to keep this rapid fire, it won't. I was going to listen back to all of these episodes and write down what I said previously so that we could kind of compare, but I didn't feel like it. So that's what could have been, guys. Now we can begin.
That's our podcast in a nutshell. What we should have done. I didn't even make notes, so I didn't listen and I didn't make notes. Just winging it.
I didn't want to forget my answers, even though they're mine and like what I do on a daily basis, but I didn't want to forget, so that's why I wrote them down.
Rachel's a little type A. She likes to write things down. Okay, so this was from episode 2. This is how far back we're going. Episode 2. Are you a planner, pantser, or plantser, Rachel?
I would say that I am about 50% a planner, 35% a plantser, and 15% a pantser. And I say that because when I first started, I'm pretty sure in episode 2, I probably said that I was a hardcore planner. And I'm not really anymore. I still plan out and make outlines and things like that. But for the most part, I tend to outline while I write, which is where the plantser comes in. And then there are other instances where I just kind of wing it. So I'm definitely more of a planner still, but I still do, a little bit of both. And it also depends on the project because I plan out my novels, but when I write short stories and stuff, I usually just wing those.
No, I get that. I would say 70% planner, 20% plantser, and 10% pantser. And I think I was more of a plantser. Since I got serious with one of my big novels that I've been working on, I have tried to plan more intensely. There are still pantser moments where I'm halfway through writing a scene and it's like, oh, I've just got an idea. And I'll wedge it in there. But I'm trying to be more plannerish to keep my pinball brain from bouncing around too much and not letting me get anything finished. So yeah, I think I've definitely leaned more towards planner to keep me on track.
Yeah, that's fair too, especially since you're writing a series. I feel like when anybody writes a series, you have to have some sort of planning involved. Even if you don't write an outline for whatever novel you're currently working on, but I don't know, you still have to, it's so easy to make plot holes and forget certain things that I think when you're writing a series, most people are probably a planner in some way.
I concur.
Perfect. Beautiful. All right. Next question. Episode 4, we asked, what is your typical writing routine? I have no idea what we said. So Ari, take it away. What's your typical writing routine right now?
I also have no idea what we said. And honestly, I don't think I have a typical writing routine. I've been so deep in the edits for the last several months, either my edits or editor edits, I can't actually remember what it's like to have a writing routine. I certainly don't have the ability to say, well, every day at this time I sit down or I do this, because my life isn't structured enough for that. So it's a case of when I get a chance to sit at my desk, I just do as much as I can. I try not to have anything else open. I sometimes put classical music on if I need sort of a mini distraction in the back of my head. I can't put anything with lyrics on because I will sing along and then I'll stop and then I'll start typing the lyrics. Not good. But yeah, I try and have an idea of what I'm going to write. Like I'll pick a scene I want to write and I'll work on that. Doesn't always happen. Sometimes I'll literally sit down and I won't be able to force my brain to do what I want it to do. So then I'll have to pick a different project, which is one of the reasons why I have multiple projects running. When I am more like when I'm closer to a project being finished, like I was with The Blessed, I kind of had to be really mean to myself and be like, no, you can't touch any other projects. You have to stay with this one. And I'm trying to do that more because I can't give my silly brain carte blanche because it will just do whatever it wants. And it doesn't like to stick to one project. It's very painful. So yeah, I don't even know if that answers the question, but that's my answer.
No, I get that because it's back in the day, I used to have a writing routine. I would wake up and get my cup of coffee and I would write for a couple of hours. But now I don't know. I don't do that because I work from home now. So when I get up on the computer, some days I write first thing, and then other days I'm like, oh, well, I have email to check, or I have a blog post to write or edit or whatever. So it's really difficult for me to find that consistency, I guess. And I was going to comment on something you said, and I forget what it was. Oh, with the multiple projects, like I get that because you're at when you're working, I work on multiple projects too, and you're always at a different stage for each of them. So it's like, which one do I work on? And sometimes it's easier to write at a specific time of day than it is to edit because writing versus editing takes different brain power, if you will. I don't know. Does that make sense? It makes sense to me, so I'm going with it. So I totally get what you mean when it comes to, the routine. I don't have a real routine anymore. I would like it to be consistent and preferably be one of the first things I do in the morning, like how I used to do it, because that's when I'm the most energized. But yeah, as of right now, it's kind of all over the place. And it's just my writing somehow gets done. And then there are times where it somehow does not get done. And yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
No, I get that, especially with the idea of each project is at a different spot. Because sometimes you have to work on, as you said, the more tedious bits, and it might be like the deeper edits, not the fun edits where you're really giving the manuscript a good clean. I'm talking the how many times have I used the word very? That sort of boring part of the editing. And yes, it's important, and yes, you need to do it, but sometimes if your brain's just not in the right space for that, having another project that's got a nice meaty scene for you to write can be really useful. And honestly, I sometimes think that's a nice jumping off point. So you can do maybe an hour on a meaty scene in a different project, which again moves that project forward, always good. And it sometimes kind of kickstarts your brain. It does with me. And then I'll go back to the edit of how many varies have I used, or how many times did I say sit down or stood up. And I'm okay because I got my little reward of going on to a different project and writing something enjoyable, and now I can do the more boring things. So I think it works, and that's why I'm actually quite a good, I'm a big proponent. That's not the right word. I'm a big proponent. I think that's the right word. I can't remember. Of people writing multiple projects. It's just a case of making sure you at least finish them. I say that as someone who does struggle with that.
I think writing is easier in the sense because it's almost like that quantity over quality. Like I feel more productive when I write than I do when I edit, which is really backwards because editing is the actual real writing part of the process if you really think about it. But yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah, the routine, the whole routine is just out the window. And it's something that I am consistently trying to get into, but to no avail.
Yeah, routine is good if you're able to do it, but if you aren't, you just have to manage with what you've got and make it work. But let's move on. Let's try and make it rapid. We're not. Episode 7. Do you prefer hardback, paperback, ebook, or audiobook?
I don't remember what I originally said, but I do know that I went through an ebook phase. So maybe in the 2020 episode, maybe I really did say that I preferred ebook, but honestly, I prefer paperback. If it's super thick, I'll take a hardcover because I cannot stand how the spine bends for like a thick, chunky paperback. But I can only tolerate ebooks so much now, and I used to love them, but they just kind of bug me at this point, and I don't really know why. I would like to listen to audiobooks, but I need to read along with the book while listening to the narrator because otherwise I'll tune it out and I won't comprehend anything. And that kind of defeats the purpose because a lot of times if I'm going to listen to an audiobook, I would rather multitask and do something else and I can't. So if I'm reading, chances are I'm gonna have a paperback in hand.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely am not a big fan of audiobooks because I would definitely skip parts. I don't mind it with nonfiction, and I like being able to increase the speed a bit. But yeah, no, not for fiction. And also now that there are more and more AI voices, kind of putting me off even more. But that's another query. I'm still back to my paperback because I've always been a paperback person. I love paperback books. I will admit I do read more ebooks at the moment, but that's probably because I sometimes get caught up in the stuff your Kindle, where you get like a million free books, and then I overwhelm myself with free books. But what I will do is I will read the ebooks, and if I really love it, if it was one of those like I could read this again, this is an awesome story, then I will buy it in paperback. So I use ebooks as a testing ground. And I specifically like it now because I've got a little Kobo reader because I freaking hate Kindle. And I've got a little Kobo reader. It's so lovely. So I don't mind having ebooks on that. But again, I do try and move to paperbacks on ones I like. But honestly, I have bought paperbacks in the past. But they turned out to be absolutely terrible. And with how expensive paperbacks are, getting them as ebooks first is a cheaper option to then be like, okay, I'm filling my bookcase with books I know I'm going to love, not books that I'm like, I'm never reading that again. And then I've got books to get rid of. So yeah, that's how I do it. And hey, hardbacks, I hate them. I just hate them. I get that people like them. I get the why people like them and the aesthetic. A lot of people collect hardbacks for the aesthetic. I just hate them with a passion. They're too big. They fill up too much space in my bookcase. I would be able to have more paperbacks if too many hardbacks, they fill up too much space. No, no, I just don't like them. Personal issue, but I do.
I have to have, if I have a series, I need it to be uniform. So like I have the whole Warriors collection, and the first couple of books are in paperback because I forget why. And then we got the book 6 for the first series right when it came out. So naturally it was hardcover. And ever since then, the rest of the series is on hardcover because I need it to be uniform. So I don't despise hardcover as much as you do, but I despise dust jackets. I cannot tell you John Green's Turtles All the Way Down. I have that book, or I had that book. I might have donated it actually, but I did have that book. The dust jacket was too big for the book, and it annoyed the crap out of me. And even if the dust jacket does fit the book, I never have it on when I read it. I always pull the book out of my shelf. I take the dust jacket off, and then I put the dust jacket back into the slot on my shelf. So it looks like nothing's missing. And then I just carry the hardcover around with me. So I totally get that. But the dust jackets are an absolute no-no for me. And I like what you do with the ebook, having the ebook be like a test run for the paperback. That's a really good idea. And I might have to steal that because paperbacks are getting expensive. And I mean, rightfully so. The writers, I mean, we're authors. We should get paid what we deserve. But paperbacks, I mean, the cheapest paperbacks now, they're like $15.99, like 15, $16. And when they used to be like $6, it's kind of crazy.
That is exactly. And I get, things change, prices go up, of course, like, understandable. But yeah, it's the idea of buying something that you're going to end up reading, and it's like, that's not. I thought it was good, but it wasn't for me. It's never that it's bad. It's just something that's not for me. But yeah, tester ebooks are brilliant for that. And then, because sometimes I won't even finish an ebook, and I'm like, really glad I didn't buy that in paperback.
Well, you got to think too, how often do you buy a book and then read it right away?
That's true. Mm.
I mean, if you get an ebook, I mean, it's not taking up any space and it only took a couple of bucks for you to find it 5 years later.
Yeah, and you can just delete it off your library, like gone. It's not holding up space.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So much easier. I might have to steal that. But we will move on. Good segue right there. Episode 10, we asked what is the best and worst thing about writing? And that episode was our very first guest episode with Carrie Davidson. So I don't remember what any of us said, but Ari, for you right now, what's the best and worst thing about writing?
I think the best thing is for me, it's the building the world and writing relatable characters. I love just kind of getting completely absorbed in the character life and the world building and obviously plot. But I am a heavy character writer. And I love the creation of it all, how you have these threads of story and basic building blocks of characters, and then you just keep adding and adding to it, and it just sort of emerges in front of you like a picture. It just like ripples outwards until you start seeing all of this image, and kind of knowing that it all just came out of your head like on the page. I love that. I always say that my best feature is my imagination, nothing else. I have no other best feature, my imagination.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have other features. I'm not saying.
Yeah, but they're not the best.
I wasn't agreeing with that part, but I like what you just said about how your imagination is your best feature. That's good. Because I will agree with you on that. My best thing about writing is kind of unleashing all of my story ideas in some form or another, and just constantly learning about myself, constantly learning more about myself through my writing. So I think we're on similar wavelengths with that.
That's good. Yeah, learning about yourself, because as you write, you do sort of see things that you know that are about you and your thoughts, your experiences. They all get sort of woven into your story. So I think that's really good. Yeah, learning about yourself. That's a big one. Yeah, I agree with that. Worst, everything else. No, for me, I think it's the fact that I never know when to stop. And if anyone's been following my newsletter, my blog, anytime I've been talking about the stupid blessed, getting annoyed with it, I spent so much time in the weeds obsessing with my editing and asking myself some of the tiniest questions that none of my beta readers even considered. And I'm like, well, this is really important. They must need to know this. No, they didn't. And it had to get pried out of my fingers to go to the editor because I didn't know when to stop. And I think it's because editing is so difficult because you're always trying, well, maybe it's just me, but you're trying to find perfection in the story because we have a habit of comparing ourselves and we compare our however many drafts to somebody else's polished manuscript that's already out, some book. And I think sometimes you can get caught up in that of being like, well, this book's really good. It's like, yeah, that's had an edit and another edit and a polish and a proofread and it's been through a million people. You're on draft 2. Calm down. So yeah, that's the worst thing for me is the over editing. And again, that's not the writing, that's just me. I don't even think it's a writing issue. That's just me being mental with my stupid brain. So
Oh, I think that's the imposter syndrome. Because I mean, I understand that. It's very difficult. The editing part is so hard because you're not just tearing apart your manuscript, you're kind of tearing apart yourself in a weird way. If we want to get deep about this, because when you edit and you look at your manuscript, there will be days where you're like, wow, I wrote that. That's pretty cool. And then there are other days you're going to be like, wow, I wrote that. That's awful. Like, who would read this? And yeah, it's not a fun process to go through. And it's also just kind of, it's like the idea of letting go, and it's like an empty nester. Like when you submit your manuscript to an editor or something, you just worry so much that they're not going to like it. And it's like, I thought it was ready, but it's not ready. And you got to keep in mind that the editor is there to help you. You don't want it to be 100% polished because that's their job and they're supposed to help you through that process. But yeah, I get that. That's a mood right there. For me, what I wrote down was the worst thing about writing was the business side of it and the cost, because I'm not a salesy person. But if we're looking at, I realized from Ari's answer, I realized if we're looking at like the worst thing about writing the manuscript, I guess the business side and the cost of it doesn't really count because it's not like the act of writing. So I guess I would say I'm going to tag along Ari's editing and say like the editing, like the nitty gritty type stuff, and trying to keep everything straight, because you have an idea, you have the plot, and it's all on a string. But like it's like when you're making a friendship bracelet with beads. It's like you put a bead through, and then sometimes you put a bead through, but the hole is too small and it won't go on the string. And then you didn't knot the end of it big enough. So when you put a bead through, it just like goes and falls off through the other end. And it's really intricate and it's a pain in the ass. And it's what halted me when I was writing The Perfect Alibi, because I screwed up on the timeline and everybody's ages, and the math just isn't mathing, and it's driving me nuts to figure out. So I think going off with the edits, that is the worst part about writing, is when you have this brilliant idea and you put it all together and you realize you made one little mistake and it has this domino effect that you have to fix everything else. That's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I will second that. I have had instances where I wrote something and then halfway along, like, big chunk of it done, and it's like, oh, bugger, that's not gonna work. Because as you said, it just dominoes effects, and it's like, oh, do I have to rewrite the whole goddamn thing? Oh, I don't want to do that. But yeah, but yeah,
I have rewritten The Imperfect Alibi like 5 times. It's awful.
no, that's it. I think that's sometimes why you need brainstorming with other people. Sometimes because if you're stuck in the hole, you sometimes need somebody else to see a way out. Because otherwise, you're just like, there's no way out. There's just no way out. But also, I'm fine with the whole like the writing in the sense of writing in general and all the pieces it comes to. With when you mentioned the whole business thing, I get that too. I get that. The some of the business thing I think I'm okay with. Some of it definitely not, like marketing or anything to do with Instagram. Yeah, no.
100% yes. Social media
It
sucks.
so sucks. But I'm sure we've complained about social media on another episode. We'll try and remember and tag it in. Okay, next question. Episode 17. That was, how do you keep up with your writing goals?
What goals? That's a whole question in and of itself.
Wait. We literally have writing goals as one of the next episodes.
I know, it's literally next week's episode. We never said we were good at keeping up with the writing goals, which is what this whole question is. Basically, lots of planning, and then I changed my mind, and then I planned some more. So really, I don't keep up with my writing goals at all because it's constantly changing. I can't stick to anything whatsoever. And we mentioned it earlier in this episode, or Ari mentioned it, about how we love to work on multiple projects at once. So if I will create goals for one project and then I'll get a shiny new idea for something else. So then I'm like, oh, I should work on that because it's in the front of my mind. So I should work on that first. That's what my brain wants. Yes, right. So what I will do is I will make a list of goals for that project, which screws up the goals for the other project. And then a week later, I'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that other project, but I screwed up the goals when I made goals for the second project. So now I got to redo these goals. And it's just like, it's not fun being in my head.
Yeah, I get it. I do get it. And I think having the option and the flexibility to change what you're doing and how you do your goals, either the goals themselves or how you do the goals, is kind of helpful. And that's the thing that's worked for me, is to be a little bit more flexible. And also for me, it's making them visible. Because if it's not right in front of my face, then it doesn't exist in the world. So I've had to break my goals down, which is another one. See, this is where my pinball brain bounces. I take my writing goals, and I break them into small chunks. I use lots of little colored lots of little colored post-it notes. So I might do like, edit chapters 1 to 10, edit chapters 11 to 20. I might have write specific scenes that I need to get done, or edit these 2 chapters or other things. And I just literally put them on some paper so I can see them, and I pin them up or I have them sat next to me so they are visible. And I do need the colorful post-its because the color draws my attention, because otherwise it gets lost amongst all the other papers and receipts and notepads that are on my desk. But also having the flexibility to be like, okay, yes, I have these goals, but I'm going to have some little side quests to do to keep me sane for when I need to come back to my goals. And also, I'm trying not to be nasty to myself anymore. I used to do the thing where I'd list a load of goals, I wouldn't hit them all, and then I would spend ages tearing myself down. It was like an Ari roast, just me just being really horrible to myself. And I'm trying not to do that anymore. I'm trying to be a bit nicer. And I found, this is really surprising, you work better when you're not constantly berating yourself. Who knew? 44 years of age and I still didn't friggin' figure that one out.
Yeah, you're spitting facts. I do the same thing. And I think that's why I rewrite my goals a lot, because if I don't hit the goals that I originally wrote, I feel guilty and I get upset with myself, and I'm just like, well, I didn't hit it this time. So what if I just reword the goals and rewrite the list and, kind of turn it on its head, and I'll hit that for sure. And then I don't, and things change again, or something else comes up. And yeah, it's a vicious cycle. And I'm trying to be better at that too. And I think I'm going to have to steal your post-it idea, because correct me if I'm wrong, but when you pull the post-it notes off after you complete something, you put it in a jar so you can visually see how much you've accomplished, correct?
Yes. And I use different colored, because I know you love your color code.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
use different colored post-its for different things. So green would be the podcast, yellowy orange is writing. I have purple for business, light blue for reading, dark blue for exercise, because I have goals for everything. And that makes it easier to see if I'm like on target with things. But yeah, and I keep them, and I do my goals per quarter. So then every quarter I see how I'm doing. And then by the end of the year, I have a nice jar full of them. And honestly, it's a weird thing to see. Like, look how good I've done. Because I think sometimes we need the visual of it. Ticking it off and then throwing the paper away is not the same as seeing a little jar full of little post-its all folded up, filling it. It sounds really sad, but it isn't. I guarantee if you need that kind of visual, try it.
No, I think that's probably what I'm going to try to do for 2026. I'm going to steal that idea and see how it works for me, because part of the problem is and I say we in a general sense, we're all very good at celebrating the big wins, but we never ever celebrate the little wins, or it's very rarely. We just kind of do it, go through the motions, and then we overlook those little wins. And I feel like using those post-it notes and filling that jar, it will help us see, wow, even though I feel like I didn't do anything this year, I actually accomplished quite a lot. And I like that you don't have it all just for writing or just for business or anything. It's like literally everything in your life. You could say, wow, I exercised a lot. That's great. I'm going to steal it. Just remind me. Oh, well, my question's next. Episode 31. How do you choose which story to write?
Honestly, I don't choose. I have multiple that I work on. I think it's whichever one has the meatiest scenes that I am literally chomping at the bit to write, which is why I have 3 or 4 projects at once, because they all have meaty scenes. And then from that, it's usually the one that I have multiple meaty scenes and characters who I'm dying to know more about them, because you learn as you write. Those are the ones I will write. Anything else, if I get like a little idea like whispering in my ear, I will make a note of it. I will write it down. I'll put cards together. I'll scribble everything down. I'll create a Scrivener folder for it, ready. And every now and then, as ideas come, I will go in and add them. But unless it's like really gripped me, and thank goodness, 3 or 4 at a time grab me. Because could you imagine if all like 42 ideas were like, we all want to be written right now? No. So yeah, it's literally the one with the meatiest scenes and the characters who I'm like, if I don't write these down, I'm just gonna lose it kind of feeling.
Yeah, yeah, I get that too, because there's just too many ideas. I mean, I have a list of all my book ideas too, and it's too many. I mean, you can never have too many ideas, but it's very difficult when one week you're feeling one idea, and then the next week you get a feeling for another idea, or you just get a brand new idea altogether, and then it's like, well, now what? What do I do?
Exactly. It just, I think it does help having the multiple projects just to keep that little bit of novelty going. But I don't know, it's a weird question. I don't know why we picked this question in the first place, because I know most writers seem to write one story at a time. Any of the ones I follow online, it's like they have a story, they write it, and then they move to the next story. Not everybody, but a lot of them seem to do that. So it must be easy to choose if there's one story that comes at you straight away and you just pick that. But for those of us who are attacked on all sides, honestly, even if you're not sure and you kind of like one story hasn't got the meat in it, you could always like try a bit, but or just do what we all do and just write at the same time, like one project, then next to the next project, and then the next, and just like rotate through them equally. You could always try that.
Yeah, no, I don't know. My brain is all over the place. I mean, when I choose a story, like if the characters speaketh, I writeth the story. Until ADHD walks up to my lemonade stand and says, "Hey, got any grapes?" And that's it for me. You know that reference, right?
It rings a bell, but no. Go on.
The duck song.
The duck song.
A duck walked up to the lemonade stand and he said to the man running the stand, "Hey, bum, bum, bum. Got any grapes?"
I may have seen a meme of it, but we don't have lemonade stands over here, so it probably doesn't translate.
What?
No, we don't have that.
All right. Well, when we're done recording, you need to go on YouTube and look up the duck song.
I will do that. So yeah, I think I've seen it on a meme and it was like, oh, okay,
Just saying.
different. But yeah, no. So.
Please, in the comments, let me know that you understand that reference and that you've seen the duck song.
Whoa. And also point out which country you're in. Because obviously if you're all American and you're like, yeah, we get it, then obviously it's an American thing.
It's on YouTube. You have YouTube.
Yeah, but I don't look for lemonade stands. I know what a lemonade stand is, and I know that you guys make lemonade with lemons and sugar or something, which just... Is that lemonade? Really? Is lemonade supposed to be fizzy? Aid?
Fizzy?
Yeah, if we buy lemonade over here, it's a fizzy bottle of... I don't know, because I don't drink fizzy.
What the hell?
But yeah, so it just seems weird that it's like...
Ari.
Yeah. It's... Whoa. Don't come at me with your weird American shit, okay?
No, I mean, the duck song came out in 16 years ago.
Nobody needed to know that. I don't even know about it fully, and I don't need to hear that.
I have to, like, is this an age thing? Am I showing my age? Is Ari showing her age? I don't know. My God, Ari. Because as soon as I said that, you made a face, and I could tell you had no idea what I was talking about.
It's like there was a little thing, but it's just like I think I've seen it like someone's done a cartoon and mentioned it, but I wouldn't know that there was a song or anything. But
oh my God. Ugh.
Don't judge me. Don't judge me.
I am judging you. It's a beautiful, beautiful cartoon with a catchy beat. It's the stupidest thing in the world, but you got to watch it. Anyway, last question. Go ahead.
So rapid is this rapid fire? Probably a longer episode than normal.
I already reset the timer.
Okay, last question. Episode 42, we asked, what do you do when you hit a roadblock in your novel?
We're really ending on a strong one. I cry, and I might vent about the situation to my sister or Ari or whoever can put up with that. I mean, but really, it depends on the situation and the projects, because sometimes I can keep writing until the characters figure it out. When I hit a roadblock with The Perfect Alibi, I wrote 5 chapters of nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. And I had the intent of writing those chapters knowing that they were going to get cut out. And finally, in that 5th chapter, Lila had some sort of bright idea, and I was able to make connections with it and push the plot forward. And I got the story back on track that way. Otherwise, I tend to write something else, like a short story or whatever, just to kind of cleanse my palate, because usually if I hit a roadblock in my novel, it's usually because my brain is getting sick of writing it, hence why I work on so many different projects at once.
Yeah, I get that. You need that kind of clear the cobwebs out to start again. It's like anything. You can get burnt out with a story if you've been like intense on it for a long time. And roadblocks, if you don't give your brain a bit of rest, those roadblocks suddenly seem massive. Now, what I will do is, because I don't write linearly, I will just jump to the next juicy scene I can write and start there and just carry on. That's just how I do it. But if I'm really stuck, or it gets to the point where it's like, right, you've written everything you can write, you need to go back and fix all these issues, I will just grab a pad and pen. I like to go analog, and I just start asking questions. How did we get here? Where are they trying to get to? Why is this an issue? And it's just like, I will just break down question after question after question, and I go deeper and deeper. Like, I'm trying to think of an example, but my brain has just kind of like farted off and gone away. But like, whatever the issue is, I'll write that down. It's like, right, what is that issue? And then it's like, okay, if it's say the character needs to get from A to B, and they've got like 3 days to do it, but that distance is 3 weeks, and I have no way of getting them there. It's like, okay, well, why did I make it 3 weeks to get there? Was that important, or was that like an arbitrary distance I gave my characters? And now it's like, well, I can just fix that. Or is it a case of, no, that's actually integral to the point, integral to the plot, And it's like, okay, well, is there any way they could get there? Could somebody come by with a cart? Is they going to find a horse somewhere? Could there be a traveling circus? And you just kind of break down. That was a really bad example. I appreciate that for a proper roadblock.
No, but it makes sense though, because there are sometimes when you tell yourself, oh, I'm going to give the characters 3 weeks. It's going to take them 3 weeks to get from point A to point B. And it's like, you chose 3 weeks probably because you were trying to make the pacing normal, I guess. You're trying to stretch out the pacing so that it's not too fast paced. But there's that fine line between making it too fast paced, just right, or goddamn slow. So I understand that. I know that had nothing to do with the question, but I just wanted to comment on it.
No, that was it. I mean, I actually have a better example. I'm just, as you were talking, I just got a better example. One of the issues I had was I have my villain in right at the beginning of the book. You meet the villain, and then I was writing the book, and I realized that I hadn't brought them back for like ages. And there's a reason why the villain's not in it a lot. It's kind of like very subtle at the side. And it was like, okay, I need to wedge them in somewhere. And I was like, how do I do that without ruining the story or whatever? So I was like, right, well, what would the villain be doing at this point in time? What is the overall plan? And I just kept questioning and questioning and questioning until I came up with ideas. And it might take a lot of brainstorming. And this is why I like doing it analog. I think if you do it on the computer where your manuscript is that you're staring at all the time, your brain doesn't get that change. You need a change. So I like to take it off the computer, put some music on, put a TV show on in the background, grab my big chunky coloured pens. I don't know why I don't like writing in biro. I like chunky coloured pens when I'm asking questions. Lots of scrap paper. And then I just write a load of questions. I don't even answer them. I just write questions, question after question after question. And then eventually when I'm in the right headspace, I'll go back and start answering them. And you'll find often as you're writing more questions, you'll have an idea for one of the questions at the beginning. So then I go back and I answer it in a different colour. And I've got around so many roadblocks doing that. I've also ended up with more plot lines because of that. Not the worst thing, could have been better not to have more plot lines. But yeah, that's how I like to do it. Lots of questions. Questions save me every time.
I concur. I missed most of what you said. I have the duck song stuck in my head. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh, so mean. Hopefully the people who are listening to this are actually listening to this and not doing what Rachel's doing and thinking about duck songs.
No, they probably they probably exited out of the podcast by now and they went onto YouTube and they're looking up the ducks. Because I swear for some of our listeners, they're probably like, oh man, I forgot about that song and I need to go listen to it because it's a bop. But yeah, Ari speaks facts.
Always. Okay, because this is the longest rapid fire we've done, let's end it. And obviously for the 3 people who are still with us. So before we leave, if you want to learn more about us, the podcast opportunities to be a guest on the show, why does anyone want to be a guest on this show? Don't forget to check out our website at themerywriterpodcast.podbean.com. Now we'll turn it over to you guys. What are your answers to these questions? Did you scribble some down? Let us know. Put them in the comments. We have a chat. Remember, we do release new episodes every Wednesday. Next week, we're discussing writing goals for the new year. So, Rachel, you better start thinking of some.
I already wrote my notes.
Oh, you did, yeah.
Yes.
I forgot what I was saying
sometimes.
And then you sit there going, I don't remember writing these notes.
I've done that before, though. And I blamed you.
You did accuse me. Yeah. Gaslighting. Anyway, ruining the outro. To ensure you don't miss it, hit the subscribe button on your way out. We really hope 2025 was good for you, and we wish all the best in 2026. As always, thanks for listening to the Merry Writer Podcast. We'll see you next year. This podcast is brought to you by Arguments Over Tea and Coffee. Which side are you on? The music titled Inspired is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons 4.0.